In my Unplugged session, I showed you how to build an ASP.NET MVC3 application using the Razor syntax. I've also linked to the hands-on lab so you can step through those steps and get to the point where we start this presentation. The other thing with the MVC3 environment, I showed how you can turn this into a Windows Azure cloud project and host this out on Windows Azure. I called out the fact that there's a free Windows Azure platform trial available, and this is going to run until the end of June, so you can get 750 hours of this extra small compute instance, which is a way of saying like a quarter of a core on a machine, and a 1 gig SQL Azure database up until the end of June, free of charge. Now I'm deploying my MVC3 site out onto this platform trial, and when you think about the extra small compute instance, it's similar to shared hosting, but the difference is that it's only a quarter of a processor, and you can remote desktop into your instance running on the Azure platform. Okay, so if I have a look at this, I'm actually running this in a local, using the local fabric, so the local Azure fabric. If I open up the emulator here, and you'll see that it started and that it's running from this emulator. If I show my compute emulator, it's actually going to show how the application is deployed locally and the resources that it's taking up on my local machine. See that running through there. Inside the application itself, it does a few things. So I could list people, and I get a list of people here. It's also integrating using NuGet to get the Facebook like button, and I'll show that in the hands-on lab. I can also do things like pass in a parameter top first 2, and that will just return a list of 2 people there. So you see that parameter being passed in here. Now the next thing I wanted to do was actually extend this application to show you some of the new features inside of IE9, including site pinning. I wanted to also talk a bit about HTML5 video, show how HTML5 video is being used, and incorporate that into this application as well. So let's get started. First thing I want to do is actually show you how Twitter uses site pinning inside of IE9. So if I'm to actually drag this Twitter tab here down to the start bar in taskbar in Windows, you'll notice that it actually shows up here with a high resolution fave icon to identify the site. And also if I was to close this browser window and right click here, what you'll see is that there's a list of options on the right click menu which are common tasks that I might like to use with Twitter. So I get new tweet, message, mentions, and if I was to click one of those, I could just go straight into my mentions, for example, and launch the site this way. It's a great way of keeping consistent branding across when people are actually launching into a browser. So if I was to come over to this next tab and type Facebook, Facebook is also doing site pinning. So if I bring up my Facebook page here, I can actually drag this down onto my taskbar as well, and you'll notice that this launches another browser window specifically for Facebook. Again, using a high resolution fave icon, and this time it's actually got a right context menu for events and friends and news. And if I was to have notifications up here, it would also show up with a little red asterisk down there to indicate that there's something to come into the site to have a look at. My personal favourite at the moment with the Cricket World Cup going on is if you go to cricinfo.com, they've implemented some nice HTML5 canvas visualizations for looking at the Hawkeye during their live scoring. And also if you were to drag down their icon here, again a high-res fave icon and a nice link that comes back to show you into the site. So if there's live scoring going on, you can right click and go straight to the live scores that are currently happening. Now I don't think there's a match on right now, but there might be one later tonight. What about New Zealand sites? So if I launch this one here and navigate to TradeMe, TradeMe is using a best practice of wrapping up a fave icon with multiple resolutions. So they've got, when you load up, you'll notice that they actually have their 16 by 16 icon here that appears down next to the address bar. And if I'm to drag this down onto my home page, my taskbar, you'll notice that it's actually a nice high resolution fave icon in there as well. Right click, they're not actually doing any customization, so you see the SEO title appearing here and no tasks. And if I'm to zoom in here, you'll notice that the navigation arrows have also changed the dominant color in that fave icon down inside of IE9. If I pick another site like airinz.co.nz, you'll notice that they're actually not doing any of the visualizations themselves. So if I was to navigate here, they've got a 16 by 16 fave icon, which is this little one here, but they don't offer a higher resolution. So if I was to drag this one down and pin this, you'll notice it actually is just a small icon appearing down on the site pinning. So if you are running a website in New Zealand, people are potentially going to pin your site this way with IE9, and it would be important to just follow the best practices. So if I have a look at what the best practices are, it's really around having a standards-based site fave icon. This link tag here will force the browsers to identify it. They will also just automatically look for a fave icon of this name. And also it should be containing a package of different resolutions. I know some people are using faveicon.png files, but really if you use an ICO file and package up these different resolutions, it's going to give you the best effect. If you use a program like this one here, this is IcoFX, it shows you how you can have the different icons with the different resolution sizes all in the same package. And the way to add that to my site would be to just add an existing item over here and select from that fave icon that I've created. So here in my assets I can just select that fave icon, and that will turn up now inside of my site. The next thing I wanted to do was talk about how you get those task lists to appear in your page. Now again, this is a custom meta tag that can be output to the browser on your main site. Now I would recommend putting this out for IE9 users specifically, because they're the ones that are going to interpret these meta tags and provide those right-click context menus for those tags. Now if you're using jQuery, I can sort of show you from before, I can right-click here and add a library package reference, and then using NuGet, which was the example I showed you, I can click online, select online here, and then do a search for IE9. And if I go IE9 there's actually a jQuery class that's been published that enables you to perform these operations. So if I press update there, that's going to install that IE9 jQuery IE9ify library in my project, and you'll notice that this little tick indicates that it's been installed, and we'll see it turn up just down here as well in our JavaScript libraries, our jQuery libraries. If I was to come back to my layout page, so this is layout.cshtml, CS for the Razor to indicate I'm using the Razor view. Down here I can actually add a little bit of code into my project, and so what I'll do is I'll just drag in a script code here. What this is doing is that saying that I want to include the jQuery script that we saw before. It's also saying giving my application a short name, and this is what will appear here on this right click menu instead of this long title that the site will currently carry. Saying which favicon I'm using, so in this case it's the favicon.ico that I added to my site just before down here. And then I can also say, well, what's the tooltip, what's the default home page I want to launch, and if I want to, what's the width and height for the default page. And then down here I've actually added some of those tasks that I was talking about before. So for my site I've got a Twitter, which leads to my Twitter page for my website, and then I can call this top 2 people query, and I can pass directly that address string in here that would launch up also with this favicon. Now as I mentioned before, I have actually deployed this out onto a live site on Windows Azure. Here is the favicon that's come through on my live page, and if I'm now to drag this index down to my start bar, what you'll see is that it loads up at 800 by 600, which was the resolution I said, with these nice coloured arrows, navigation bars. and that was my page loading from the taskbar. If I was to right click down here, you'll notice that I've got this link to my Twitter page. If I click that, go directly into my Twitter page that I talked about before, and I can always just press one click on the icon here to go back to the home page of my site. So that will just take me back to the home page of my site. If I'm to right click and go into top 2 people, this will load directly into that query that we identified before. So that's a quick way of actually adding the JavaScript code to perform that site pinning, to create a high resolution icon, and to actually customize those task lists that we see as well.